Inspired Intentions listeners, welcome back again today. I have a full house in here. All 4 mics are taken. We have a really great episode for you. We are going to be talking through something in more depth that we have talked about actually once. If you remember, and it's been a few episodes ago, but episode 241 was a podcast that we did on neurologics and brain mapping with Greg. And we wanted to dive into that even further. I believe during that podcast, we said that once we had somebody that had done some brain mapping and worked with the Neurologics some, we'd come back on.
That's correct.
Today's the day. So we're back. I'm super excited to have, and you heard Greg's voice already, Greg back in the booth. Everybody knows Greg, but Greg, reintroduce yourself for everybody.
Yeah, my name is Greg Osler. I'm the executive director at Skyterra Young Adult.
And Greg is going to be helping us out with this conversation around neurologics with 2 people that have never been on a podcast before. One of them being somebody that has gone through brain mapping. That is Braden.
Yep.
Welcome, Braden.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. Thanks,
man. First podcast ever?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Braden Smith, and I live in Virginia currently, grew up in Georgia, had a pretty rough experience the past couple years and decided I needed kind of a fresh start, and that's what drew me to Skyterra, specifically the neurologics aspect of it really drew me in, and I'm very glad that I did experience that.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's one of the main things that brought you here.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's super cool.
I had thought that I had a brain injury that had gone unnoticed from a car accident. And when I saw that the program was able to do the brain scans more in depth, I kind of jumped at the opportunity.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you and I have shot some arrows together. Other than our brief conversations, that's like been our interactions over your time here. But I'm excited to have you here in the booth and do your first podcast. And we'll kick it over to the last person on the 4th mic here, Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor, and I'm one of the therapists at Skyterra Young Adult. I've been working with Braden for, I don't know now, 4 months, something like that.
Some amount of time.
Yeah.
And you've been the primary person working with Braden, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. And Amanda, I don't know if you knew this, Braden, she's pretty good at shooting arrows too.
Oh.
Pretty darn good.
Pretty
To
darn
have
good.
a competition now.
She did the best out of her class. I will say that. So, I guess to kick this thing off, Greg, I'd love to do a reminder for all the listeners out there. What is Neurologics and why should we know about it?
Absolutely, Alan. So brain mapping is a qEEG technology that looks at brain imaging and then analyzes brain processing at the speed of thought. So looks at the frequencies, looks at the interactions, look at the neurons and how they're communicating or connecting. And we look at it from a Skyterra lens as an in-body for the brain, being able to look a little bit deeper than surface-level self-report. Because some of the battles we run into is that wellness is often a part of brain fog and difficulty thinking or organizing or being consistent in routines. So then we partnered with Neurologics several months ago to say, hey, let's bring some of that awareness to the forefront and dig in and see what's happening in these brains of ours.
And so somebody says Neurologics and they say brain mapping, you're talking about the same thing.
Correct. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Yep.
Just to establish that for everybody.
Yep.
And I guess what all type of things does Neurologics measure? Amanda, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So one thing I really appreciate about Neurologics is it gives us objective information about how someone's brain is functioning in everyday life. It looks at things like processing speed, working memory, attention, cognitive flexibility, impulse control, and especially how the brain responds under stress. As therapists, we usually rely on observations and what the client tells us, which is incredibly valuable. But this gives us another layer of information. It helps us understand why someone may be struggling instead of assuming they're unmotivated.
So what do you mean by cognitive flexibility?
When I say cognitive flexibility, I mean being able to kind of roll with what comes at us. So if there's a change in a schedule, if life is unexpected, not getting not freezing or going into fight or flight, but being able to stay regulated and figure out the next piece.
Gotcha. Amanda, the things like attention, cognitive flexibility, impulse control, stress, are these things that you commonly see that folks need to work on?
Yes, absolutely. That is these are the common things that I see in young adults. Processing speed and working memory tend to be lower. Handling things under stress, all of us have a drop in our IQ under stress, but the majority of people I work with, that is pretty significant. And so you may have the tools, but can't use them because the brain is just not online the way it should be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Braden, are any of those things some of the stuff that you were like, man, that sounds really interesting for me to be able to work on?
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
It was like I had this emotional intelligence to where I could tell what I was feeling and how I should be feeling and how I should handle it. It's like I was fighting my own brain to actually do those things. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
So where do you start with this, Amanda, with doing and measuring with Neurologics?
So typically within the first week that a young adult comes to us, they get a brain map.
Okay.
Then we will we'll get a report of findings from Neurologics, and that's about maybe a week later. That gives us all of the information from brain mapping, as well as summarizes the information of what we're seeing in the scans. And then we will meet client, clinician, family will meet with one of the Neurologics doctors who will walk through what they're seeing and where the concerns are, and then kind of discuss how brain training or brain optimization would be beneficial in improving those scores.
And so that's like the baseline assessment to getting into the optimization piece?
Yes, we start with a brain map. And if someone chooses to do optimization, again, we meet with the doctor and see kind of what would be beneficial from that, what areas are concerned, how brain optimization would be helpful. And then we offer that. And if they choose to do that, I mean, it helps inform therapy for sure.
Okay.
All of it, the brain map and optimization, we integrate that into treatment planning, and then they'll do another brain map halfway through so we can see the progress that was made.
Okay, and then how does that fit into the actual young adult program overall?
Yeah, so brain mapping is just part of the program, so everyone is scheduled to get a brain map as soon as they come in. It helps all of us speak the same language.
Oh, okay.
So as a therapist, I can individualize therapy. Fitness staff can understand how much challenge versus regulation someone may need. Nutrition can support brain health. The mentors can understand why a client might need structure or repetition. It just helps us individualize everything that we do. We already are a pretty individualized program, but people come in with different needs, different struggles.
Yeah.
I would love to hear a little bit deeper perspective of what was really happening in your life. What were you missing out on, where you finally said, "I've got to dig in a little bit deeper and find some answers"?
Yeah. It's been a rough 5 years, I think, and especially the last 2 years where I really, tried my hardest to get better. I was trying to hold down jobs better and to go back to school, things like that. And I was finding that there was this block. I could only put in so much effort before it just fell apart. And it always started mentally. It never started emotionally. It never started physically. Yeah. It was always mental. And that's kind of what got me thinking. I had lost a couple jobs. My social relationships definitely suffered. Substances was part of that as well. And so I decided to revisit things. I checked on myself physically and then decided I needed more care than I was getting currently. And that's when I came across Skyterra, and I saw that you guys offered the Neurologics, the brain mapping and such, and I thought that would be a great first step at the very least.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate that. That's some good insight. I think one of the things that we try to really do at Skyterra is reduce the shame, right? The lived experience that you have, some of the behaviors, the patterns, the relationships, some of that loss becomes a very natural process for a lot of us. And so being able to meet you where you're at, right? Being able to say, hey, we have this cool system. We can dig into my brain a little bit different beyond self-report.
Yep.
What was it like for you to see the initial report when you have the insights coming in saying, man, my life's kind of messy, but now I want to dig into it, and then you finally get to see or even hear from the doctor, right, what is really happening?
Yeah. Honestly, it was the biggest weight off of my shoulders. I could finally look in the face the thing that was causing me to stumble so much. And they presented me a clear plan on how we were going to get out of it, and I didn't have to guess anymore. I knew, I finally had confirmation that it wasn't me personally that was making this choice, that it was something that I could fix, that I could work towards. And I get chills thinking about it, because it was just it was a good day. A really good day.
So even some of those things where you're stuck in some of the shame or frustration of, hey, this is my lived experience. Mm-hmm. You said it took that weight off my shoulders.
Absolutely.
Right. It removed that shame from the reality, and you got to see objectively.
Yes.
Holy cow, that is what's happening. This is interesting. And then you dig in and say, hey, where do we go from here?
Yeah. No, that's
interesting.
Yeah.
Braden,
I like it.
You had confirmation of something you suspected. That felt really incredible to see, knowing that you had known.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to share that?
That is true. It was, it made me feel a lot less like crazy, I guess. Because I was like, there's something not right with me. There's something not right. And you follow with my parents. They'd say the same thing. And yeah, I just stopped feeling crazy overnight, almost, genuinely. Like I had something I could finally do and say, hey, this is why this was happening. And I was right the whole time.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I know. You talked about a car accident
Mm-hmm.
that you were in.
Yes.
Did not get kind of the treatment, the scans, the things that you were hoping for, but Neurologics gave you the answer that you actually did.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is hard to catch minor brain injuries, so I don't hold it against anything that happened. However, what had ended up happening is that I had a very minor microscopic tear in my brain that I believe just kept tearing open. The more I tried to use that part of my brain, the further and further it was separating itself. So very interesting, yes.
Interesting. So understanding that brain map happens sometime in the first little bit, we get that initial report of findings. Amanda, anything you saw from Braden from enrollment to the relief coming off of his shoulders where you could objectively see as his therapist, hey, I see the difference too?
Oh, yeah. Finding out, I mean, Braden was always motivated, knew something was different. Wasn't sure if it was a diagnosis he was missing, or he was pretty certain he had a TBI of some sort, and he was like, they just missed it. They missed it. He struggled with a lot of things that he was aware of. He is very introspective, could acknowledge that things were a struggle, but just wasn't sure what to do with it. Felt like he was not capable of fixing it or really improving those things. He wasn't resistant to treatment. He wasn't completely sold on therapy at first, but was open, even if it was just to kind of get some things off his chest in the beginning. But he really, I mean, he's incredibly introspective. And so he just knew. And his parents would report like things were different after this car accident. And so him seeing and hearing the doctor, seeing the scans, hearing the doctor say, right here's a TBI, he was just, I think he just sat back in his chair and was like, yeah, it's exactly what it was. And all of the things that the report of findings showed, all of the symptoms were so perfect. I think a big one was emotional clarity. That was something that he really lacked. And it was like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That's cool to be able to see that playing out in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does the scan actually show something like that?
So the scan shows, you get pieces of the brain, and it shows different colors. It'll show blue if it's parts where the brain is under functioning, red or orange if it's over functioning. Green is kind of like the, I guess, normal. Braden's scan had one part on his head that was, and you can kind of see like the nose and the ears. You can see what you're looking at from kind of the top down.
Okay.
Braden had a spot that was just red and orange. And we kind of talked about, one of the doctors said he's not sure, can't really say which part of his head was hit, because he could be hit on one side and it hit the skull on the other, and the TBI actually be on the other side. And so, yeah, it's just really cool. And then it also compares it compares the scans of your brain to tens of thousands of other people who have done these scans. and kind of groups similar symptoms. People
Okay.
whose networks look like this, or there's an issue here, tend to have these symptoms, and it's incredibly accurate.
So it's not just for somebody that has a TBI. Obviously, that's not what
No.
we're saying. But it seems like if you did have that, there's been a lot of people that have those scans, and it represents that in a specific way.
Absolutely.
Color
yeah.
codes it basically.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
crazy. And did they have you hooked up to all kinds of electrodes and?
Yeah, it's it was this cap they put on that had these little, I guess, electrodes within it, and then they put that saline gel on your head to make sure they connect. So you come out with a fancy hairdo, but yeah, you're completely painless, and it was a comfortable cap, I guess. It wasn't necessarily hard to do, and it's as if you sat down and played like games in elementary school, really. Just little number games, word games. Had you learn this little bit of language, like hieroglyphs type of thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience, to say the least. Yeah.
How long did that process take?
So the test, I believe it was only an hour long.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's dependent on how fast you're able to get through. You're in no rush to complete things, and in fact, it's kind of encouraged that you take the time you need, because the more you think about it, the more they're seeing how your brain's working. Yeah. So
That
it's
makes
a
sense.
interesting little thing, interesting little piece. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of these little pieces where it's a new experience, kind of foreign, learning the language. I did brain mapping myself, and that language was kind of the coolest part, but it's so hard to explain. You
Yeah.
can't tell someone what you're doing in some of these activities, but being able to take them back to middle or elementary school and childhood makes a ton of sense because it is non-invasive.
Yep.
It is nothing that's difficult per se. And the purpose isn't to have you pass or fail, right? It's to see how my brain is functioning and how efficiently it's doing so.
Yeah.
So that
that's true.
speed is there. But at the same time, we get the report, the cool findings through the brain imaging and all that stuff, regardless what your answers are. And that's what then informs therapy, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So let's pivot from the basic introduction. I want to dig into, you've done optimization now for several weeks, and you've had your second brain scan.
Yep.
This is a little bit different than the first because the first is a report. The second is what's different.
Yeah.
So I am super excited to hear some of these
So
numbers
exciting.
because the brain map itself is the report, but the optimization is that brain training,
Yep.
where we get to change cognition, we get to change the functioning and processing in the brain through these little skills and tools. So you've done several weeks. You now have your second report.
Yep.
I want to hear numbers. I want to hear what you saw, what you expected. And then also I'm going to jump over to you, Amanda, and say, hey, what does this really mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. As I'll start with expectations. I didn't know what to expect, honestly. I was very excited that there was something that could be done, in other words. So I didn't really care about, what I was doing or if it paid off at all. It just felt good to be doing something that was productive for once.
Yeah.
But after the first optimization session, I was mentally tired for the first time in a long time. And that's when I kind of realized I'm like, something is actually happening here. And continuing into that week and the next week, it was the same way. The activities themselves, very similar to the intake or to the evaluation you do, the first brain mapping.
Yeah.
Except they will cherry pick the ones they see you need to work on. So whether it's the memory and the digits, or whether it's arrows and like direction, spatial awareness, that sort of thing.
So you might have more of one later on.
Exactly.
And the initial one is just, hey, overall, here's your assessments. Let's see where you need to work.
Yeah. And the biggest one for me was like reflexes and attention.
Yeah.
And I've been improving very steadily in that. After a couple weeks, I started noticing the difference. I could think clearer, especially when it came to emotions. I was able, and Amanda can speak to this, like in therapy, I was able to really clearly say what I was feeling and talk about how I would deal with it myself and how I was dealing with it.
Very
So-
impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, maybe.
It was.
Yeah. And you said you wanted to hear about the
I
second
want to hear the
brain mapping.
numbers.
Yeah.
What'd you see different?
My IQ, my functioning IQ, which you have a normal IQ skill, which is your potential for information processing and all that sort of stuff. But the functioning is what you're actually using on a day-to-day basis. And specific numbers, Amanda might have them.
I do.
Okay, if you'd like to take over, because
I'm
I cannot
surprised
remember.
you don't know.
Yeah, I remember my functioning IQ went from, was it 113 to 125?
You increased 13 points in
Yeah.
functioning IQ.
Yeah.
13. Super
Yeah.
impressive. Yeah. That's almost a full standard deviation of improvement. Yeah. And then do you remember your stress? Let's see. What was it? You improved your IQ under stress, improved 23 points, which I think
Wow.
we noticed
Yeah.
the biggest shift in that.
I think that's really where I noticed the change, because I get stressed kind of easily, part of just having autism, that sort of thing. However, I've been able to handle it now, and I don't get super upset. I'm able to, and if I do start to get that way, I'm able to think clearly and figure out a path out of that. And that has made all the difference in life, very much so.
Yeah, you and your family reported low distress tolerance. You could not handle, you couldn't handle distress at all. And so you would have very impulsive behaviors or words. You were not good at holding your tongue at all.
Yeah.
And then I think when we saw the IQ under stress, we're like, oh, well, duh. Like, he knows what to do. I can give him all the tools and techniques, but his brain, like, look at the difference in IQ when he's under stress. So I think that's been the biggest, that's what I've noticed, I think, the most in behavior and in day-to-day and in therapy is that stress going, your IQ under stress improving 23 points.
For sure. Yeah, I would agree there. I think it's something you notice more. We live in a more social world than probably ever before. So you're dealing with social interaction more than anything. And that's what causes the biggest stress in most places. That might be incorrect, but that's how I feel at
People
least.
are the most stressful.
Yeah, exactly. And
Sure.
I have to interact with them, especially, being a newer adult. There's a lot of new social interactions that you have to deal with, and nobody really warned you about it. And so,
It's hard to prepare for those.
yeah.
I love that you said newer adult.
Yeah.
New adult.
Well, I
No,
don't know.
you're right, yeah.
Young adults.
I think the numbers are exciting, but I think they just prove what we saw clinically. I think your brain was able to process information more efficiently. You weren't having to work as hard to get through the day. And I think that stress point increase is incredibly significant. Just seeing, like, you could stay regulated when people were driving you crazy.
Yeah.
And you wanted to bail a lot. You were like, these people are driving me crazy. And I'm like, let's stick with it. Let's learn through it. Let's get the techniques. And slowly watching you be able to take a breath and think through what you needed to do or brush it off. I think that was really a big difference.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way.
So looking at some of those changes in your presentation where you may have panicked in the past or may have shut down in the past, being able to say, hey, I now have the awareness is a huge part of this. And then
Yes.
from awareness, you have the skills, right? That reality of I now have a brain that does comprehend or compute or analyze the information in real time that really gets me from A to B more efficiently, more productively. But also what we're seeing now, Braden, is way more confidence.
Yeah.
Way more willingness to show up in
Absolutely.
different conversations, have hard conversations. Saw you in the gym last week, right? Where you're there guiding these new young adults to figure out what different movements are, different stretches are, and you're critiquing, but you're also smiling through it. Where I think that's not someone who has social insecurities.
Yeah.
So seeing that change is huge, super exciting. And I am very curious just about how it just continues, right? As you continue to finish optimization and your next brain map, because you'll get a third brain map and just what the differences there are.
Yep.
But I think it's this pretty profound reality that life's different.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And it's a noticeable confidence in myself. I don't feel like I'm out of place everywhere anymore. And I'm really, really more social than I used to be. Like, I have never spoken this much in my life, I don't think. And especially not in the gym. I've never been big on the gym anyways. Always worked out at home more. But being able to guide people through things like that helps me a lot more. But it's also very much so, like you say, proof that I'm improving.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really weird thing to recognize, I guess, because it's all happening mentally, and the little 1 hour optimization sessions, they don't feel like much. I mean, the first week, yeah, you get kind of groggy, but after that, you just do it. It becomes second nature, and the payoff is profound.
That's cool.
For sure, yeah.
That's cool.
I'll share. Let me get comfy because this is super exciting stuff to share. So there were 2 moments that really stood out with Braden. One, he came into a session and just sat down and I said, how are things going? And he said, I dreamed again last night.
Ooh,
Yes,
big
that's
change.
true, yeah.
Because you weren't dreaming.
Yeah.
That was one of your big things. You were like, something's wrong. And I can't even dream anymore. You came in and you dreamed. I don't even think it was like a good dream, but I was like, who cares? You're dreaming.
Yeah.
And then, it was just a shift, right? Your nervous system was settling. You were being able to experience something you felt like you had lost.
Yeah.
And then there was one day, I don't remember if it was a group. I took a little note because I was like, that is so good. You said, and I'll quote it, I've learned that I'm in control of my thoughts.
Yeah.
You had been run by negative thoughts that you were completely out of control of.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, who is this person? This is so different. It felt so, I was like, all of it's worth it. Hearing a client say something like that, just, him recognizing his own ability to regulate himself, that he is in control of his thoughts is really an awesome moment.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah, the dreaming definitely, it had me down for the longest time that I just couldn't dream. And it's becoming more and more frequent that I wake up and I'm like, I can remember the dream I had last night. So that is a huge change. I completely forgot to mention that. I'm glad you remembered.
You're welcome.
It's one of those little things that people take advantage or take for granted,
Yeah.
right?
For
People
sure.
don't understand how rare it is until you're like, oh, I haven't dreamed in how long?
Exactly.
And you dream again, you're just like, hey, it is kind of nice.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the dream is, but it's different, and different is nice.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, looking at some of the massive improvements you have, how does having this information change the expectations you place on yourself as you continue to be a new adult?
I have always had high expectations for myself, for better or for worse. I think the difference now is that I feel I can live up to them.
Yeah.
You know, especially continuing in the optimization. It's as if I can look ahead and make the plan, and I'm not sitting there thinking like, oh, I'll never be able to do it, or what if this happens, what if that happens. I've been overcoming things at such a rate to where I wholeheartedly believe I can take on the world, I guess. That might be bold to say, but yeah.
No, I think before you had so many options and you were like, there's so many options that I'm frozen.
Yeah.
I can't do anything. Yeah. And now you're like, hey, I think I'll take one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
Is that a common thing you see working with people, Amanda?
That they have too many options?
Yeah.
Yes. Talk about it all the time. Talk about how Eastern cultures are a little different, that you pretty much know you get a few options. Like you're going to play this instrument and you're going to go to school to be this, and they're actually happier. We, in the Western world, we want everyone to have you can have the whole world, and you can. But now I'm finding young adults that are like, well, that's too many options. Where do I start? Instead of, I just encourage, pick one. You're at least going to figure out what you don't want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can explore the others, and you have time to explore all of them. And you might be 60 and decide you want to go a different route, and that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Greg, where does brain fog fall into all of this? That would be functional IQ, correct?
Yep. Yeah. So brain fog would be the functional, just that day to day. I think some of the battle we're into is that when we don't sleep well, when we don't move our bodies, when we're not eating well, that brain fog becomes more of a air quotes normal part of our life, and then we kind of ignore it, put it aside, but don't actually do anything about it, and then we're fighting against it unknowingly or mindlessly. And I think that brain fog really is just lack of clarity. Can't find the words, can't find the energy, can't find the motivation. My brain is not letting my cortex take over. And then we leave that active lizard brain going. And we just kind of do the thing for survival, getting through the day, ignoring all the different prompts that our brain can throw out there to say, hey, we could work on this. We're like, no. not me. Yeah.
I have a list of stuff. I mean, a little bit. So Braden and I this week, actually, because he's with us for a couple more weeks, we looked at. I got out his biopsychosocial from when he first came to us, and
Ooh, it's been a couple weeks.
Yeah.
it's been quite a while. It was from like March 5th,
Yep.
I think.
Ooh.
And I took little quotes that he'd said that he was experiencing, what his concerns were, and I just wrote them all over my whiteboard and kind of asked him what it was like to look at that. And I got a green marker, I think it was then, and we circled anything that had been improved.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of the board had been improved. And then we took a red marker, and I said, what would you, if you were coming to us now, what would not even be on your biopsychosocial? What would even, like, not even be a concern? It is so many things. He's able to emotionally regulate now. His social anxiety has decreased. Better able to express himself when his emotions are high. That's kind of that stress piece. Instead of just shutting down, his sleep improved. Self-esteem and confidence grew. His outlook on life became much more hopeful and positive. He developed stronger life skills, significantly improved his ability to tolerate stress. And we talked about that. I mean, we talked about you had life skills, but you didn't care to use them.
Yes.
You could take care of yourself, but you were just unmotivated from depression, negative outview on life, and probably fighting your brain every day.
It was kind of that survival mode
Yeah.
that Greg was talking about, to where I knew what I needed to do, but it was just so taxing to do the bare minimum that I just wouldn't.
Yeah.
Or you would sit there and say, so this is a problem. This is an issue. I know I do this, and I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to improve that or change that. I know that I'm causing this, but I can't see it any differently.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's all different now.
Yeah, for sure.
Amanda,
A biopsychosocial.
thank you. For the listeners that don't know.
Sorry. It's an assessment that we do when we first get there. It looks at biology, the psychology, and the social aspect of life. And so it gives us a full picture of someone, past treatment history, family, childhood, substance use, all the symptoms, just a full picture so that we know where we're starting. And we look at goals and diagnoses. It's kind of includes everything.
Gotcha. Is that something you repeat at the end, kind of with everybody, like you did with Braden?
Not always, not to the same extent, but we do a discharge summary when someone leaves, and that looks at changes. And so then we will kind of record how far they got. So if they're typically, we want people to go home to a therapist, and so we're setting them up with a therapist back home, and we'll share that discharge summary with them, or we'll share it with the client so they can share it. So it shows, look, this is what we were working on. This is how far we got. This is maybe what they still need to work on. Here's their barriers. And then we can really look at, what did we achieve? How have things changed?
Gotcha. Amanda, Greg, I have a question for each of you individually. I'm going to ask both of you. Being that Braden is the first person to have gone through brain mapping, optimization, work through these pieces. I know you got a couple more weeks left. You got one more scan to go through.
Yep.
But this is the first time you've experienced this. I'll start with Amanda. Are you a believer now? Because this was all new for you, correct?
Cue the song.
Yeah.
Yes. I've loved doing brain mapping. I've done, I don't know how many of those. Dr. Hack and I we're BFFs now.
Yeah, okay.
He likes to say that the optimization is the hardware and I'm the app telling it what to run.
Okay.
And that's how we kind of work in tandem. I think Braden's the perfect, if it had been anyone else or any less, I don't know, exciting, I don't know if I would have done it, but watching him, I don't know if I would have been fully into it, but watching him struggle, hearing him express his struggles, and Braden, I don't want to share anything that you don't want me to share. I would tell Braden all the time, like, you can text me in the middle of the night. Like, I'm not going to answer it. But if you need to vent something, I would wake up to pages long of him just getting his thoughts out. And I tell clients that all the time. I'm like, I'm probably not going to reply to you tonight. If it's an emergency, please don't do that. But send me your thoughts because I'm going to read it. We're going to talk about it the next day. Typically, he'd already worked through it by the time I got to work, which I knew would happen. But he would just send me I don't know the last time you sent me a text message.
It's been a couple weeks.
At least. I certainly haven't gotten like the super long, just venting, just talking it out because I think that's healthy. And some people write and journal, but I'm like, just talk it out. Just seeing the changes, sitting in staff meetings and having staff say, oh my gosh, this is just so different. Braden did this. Braden said this. Braden is leading people. Braden isn't ready to strangle everyone he comes into contact with. That was a big, it's incredible. I'm in.
Believer.
I'm a believer.
Greg, believer?
Yeah, I think it's been pretty profound to be able to watch the change happen objectively, because it's like, hey, Braden could come in and tell us what changed, but we got to see it.
Yeah.
We got to see it every day over the last 3 months of him doing this work, showing up. And I think the battle that we run into is that the efficacy is based on effort. I don't think that if Braden had come in and half-heartedly engaged in this and said, hey, maybe it'll work, we would have seen the same outcome. Right, so I think it's if the young adult is willing to come in and do the heavy work and commit to this process, they see the changes that Braden's had. And I think, Braden, you being able to look at that and say, hey, did I put my best foot forward? And or is there more I could do? Because as we look at this reality, right, we want you to be able to live your life as a new adult. We want you to be able to be confident and explore and express. And I think this has gotten you closer to that, but also it's because of engagement in the program. It's because there's a structured environment. It's milieu in engagement and being able to say, hey, there's people I have to deal with and have to navigate. And being able to build that distress tolerance through life experiences. I think if we didn't have some of the challenges that are part of our program just inherently, I don't know that we would have seen the drastic changes. So it's not necessarily one or the other. It's how do you work both of them together? And what does that look like out in the real world once you actually get to go and apply it? So I believe I'm a believer. I will jump on that bandwagon. And I think it is really about who is doing it and are they willing to put in the effort to see that change.
And therapy. I think the support around
100%.
it, which is, why I say that about Dr. Hack and his view. You know, you can have the ability to handle things under stress. But if you don't know the techniques and the skills and you don't have a place to practice them with someone there, you still don't know what to do with it. There are lots of people who have ability for lots of things that they don't practice or learn and then don't apply.
Yeah.
Who's Dr. Hack?
Dr. Hack is one of the Neurologics doctors.
Gotcha.
And so he and I typically, he's the one that I work with to go over the reported findings with clients.
Gotcha. And Braden, I would ask you if you're a believer, but I already know the answer.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool. Well, I think to tie it all back in as we wrap up, I have just kind of that reminder that we believe at Skyterra that everyone deserves the skills and mindset to live a healthy life. Being able to have that mentality then allows you to implement these skills into all the pillars that you've experienced and into your new adulthood. So, Braden, I have kind of a bigger question that touches this, okay? If there is a young adult out there listening right now who is feeling completely stuck, overwhelmed, blaming themselves for what is happening, what's the number one thing you want them to take away from your experience with both Skyterra Young Adult and optimization specifically?
Yeah. You asked what the biggest takeaway would be?
Yeah, what would you tell someone who's looking at the program or curious about getting to where you're at?
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
I'd say similar to what I say to all the new people is it's definitely effort-based. You've got to be willing to show up and even if you don't like it, don't know why you're doing it, agree to trust the people who have thought it through. And commit to Neurologics because it's like the gym for your brain. It really is. I think that's part of their slogan, maybe.
Dr. Hack says that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like you got to work out your muscles.
It most certainly is, yeah. And so that's what I would definitely encourage is that it is something that has shown profound change in my life. And I've been able to come into an environment with good people doing really good things for me. And I don't know where I'd be without it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it, love it.
Well, Braden, from my perspective, because we only ever did one thing together, and I don't typically do things with the young adult program. The only thing I really participate in on a regular basis is we shoot some arrows.
Yeah.
And I will have to say, even not knowing that you were going through optimization, over the weeks that we spent together, I did see it changing you, not only in that you started, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but you started shooting tighter groups on the target over your time here, which is, I think, partially practice, but also, I mean, maybe has something to do with it. Who knows? But
sure,
just the way that you interacted with people on the range, the way you interacted with me over your time here, it's really cool to see.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
of course, man. I hope you keep shooting arrows.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'm addicted now.
You're pretty good at it, to be honest with you. You're pretty good at it.
Thank you.
As far as like for everyone else listening out there, if you have a young adult in your life that's struggling with executive dysfunction, anxiety, feeling stuck, brain fog, any of those things, you don't really have to guess anymore. To learn more about Neurologics at Skyterra Young Adult, head over to skyterrawellness.com, skyterraya.com. That's Skyterra Young Adult, but we have it as skyterraya.com. You can also email our admissions team directly at info@skyterrawellness.com to ask questions about getting your own brain map. And that's for young adults and adults.
Correct. We do it here at Wellness. We do it at Young Adult.
Everything that we talked about can apply to an adult as well.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming on here and talking about this. I know that our listeners will find this super helpful. And Amanda for stepping out and doing your first podcast. Yeah. Braden for coming on here and stepping out and doing your first podcast. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, excellent. If you guys have questions, shoot us an email, inspiredintentions@skyterrawellness.com is another email that you can always reach us at if you have questions. And thanks so much.
Thank you.
The Inspired Intentions podcast is a production of Skyterra Wellness Retreat. Special thanks to our executive producer, Alan Broyhill. Send us your questions and comments to inspiredintentions@skyterrawellness.com. Subscribe on iTunes and everywhere podcasts can be found. If someone you know might benefit from this podcast, share Inspired Intentions with them and give us a 5-star rating. Join us next week as we cut through the unrealistic noise on diets and fitness and show you how healthy living fits seamlessly into your already busy life. Thanks for listening.